Namaskar. Welcome to Prakash on Basics. As I mentioned some time back, after stability, for an intelligent, mature human being, the prime question is Koham, who am I? Naturally, it's followed by a number of other questions also, as we talked of. The Upanishads try to answer these, and in the process, introduce many new concepts also. Interrelationship between the Atma and the Brahma is their main subject. Along with these two, Satya, Pradnyan, Jnana, Maya, Jeev, these are also addressed. The method, as I mentioned last time, uses samvad, that is dialogues, neti neti, that is the negation techniques, and many small stories of relevance. But in spite of this, the concepts that are discussed are not very simple. They're fairly difficult to grasp. And with 108 important Upanishads, the information is pretty vast. And that too, it has to be memorized or was to be memorized at that time. The information was complex, compact, difficult to interpret. We could say more like a jigsaw puzzle where every piece had to be understood and had to be thought of as to how it would be correlated to the next one. You needed a guru, a guide to turn things around, to simplify, to fast track. It's like trying to put a jigsaw puzzle together, and the guru comes along and tells you, "Oh, why don't you turn it around? Behind there is a sequence of numbers. Make that picture ready of the sequence of numbers, and your picture in front will become clearer." So that's what a guru does, simplifies things to a large extent for us. 1,000 years, nearly 1,000 years after the writing of the great Upanishads, another great sage, Shankaracharya, reanalyzed 10 of these Upanishads. He wrote commentaries on them. He also referred to another three of them, thus making a selected few of the Upanishads to be more important. Each Upanishad had a basic core, a basic concept, repeated a number of times and elaborated on within that Upanishad itself. These Upanishads were from different Vedas. So, Shankaracharya selected one sentence from these Upanishads for each of the Vedas. These were the ones that represented the core concept of that Upanishad and naturally of that Veda also. These are known as the Mahavakyas, the great sentences. The essence of these is something that we must know of. They are defined as Akhand Arthabodh Vakya, a sentence complete in terms of words and meanings on its own. It needs to be very short, it must have a specific approach, and it must establish the Jiva Brahma Sambandha, establishing the relationship between the individual and the universal totality, which is referred to as the Brahma. Let's look into these from each of the Vedas. For the Rigveda, from the Aitiriya Upanishad, Prajnanam Brahma was chosen. It is known as a Lakshana Vakya or a characteristic defining sentence. Uh, Prajnan here actually means unforgettable acquired knowledge through one's intelligence that's not just bookish, something that can never be forgotten once more. From the Shukla Yajurved's Bruhadaranyaka came the second one, Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahma. It's known as the Anusandhana Vakya, something to be researched on, something to be determined and concluded. And from the Samved, we have the Chandogya Upanishad, from where comes one of the most popular ones, Tattvamasi, Tattvamasi, that you are. It's an advice given by the father to the son, explaining things. So it's known as the Upadeshivakya. And from the Atharva Ved, we have the Mandukya Upanishad, from where we have Ayam Atma Brahma. This Atma is Brahma. It's an experience to be had. It's something that we need to feel and understand. So it's known as the Anubhava Vakya. Actually, we are aware that there is something known as the Krishna Yajurveda. And there was an equally important sentence from there too. And that is Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. This is from the Taittiriya Upanishad and is again a Lakshana Vakya or a characteristic defining sentence. You find that in all of them there is a reference to Brahma and there is invariably a reference, directly or implied, to oneself also. That is the Atma. So, understanding these Mahavakyas is one of the basic aspects that we must deal with when we talk of the Upanishads. But there are some inherent problems. One, that these are in Sanskrit. The Upanishads themselves are more than 2500 years old. Their visualizers, the original ones, are lost, gone, and forgotten. The interpreters are about 800, 900,000 years old. And there are many of them, and they have different outlooks. Uh, Shankaracharya, I mentioned, Madhvacharya, Nimbakacharya, Ramanuj, Kumaril Bhatta, and then there are many others right up to the present day. Um, this obviously led to different interpretations of the same Vakyas and some of the ideas related to them, and resulted into different philosophical schools that we know of. They referred to as the darshans, the Purva Mimamsa, the Uttar Mimamsa, and many others. We'll discuss them sometime later. If we listen to all these people, we find that they all seem to be right because each of them is very convincing. So it is finally your own interpretation that really matters. The crux then is the interpretation. And then there are two words used along with this, Shabdartha, which means the literally meaning of the word, and the Lakshartha, the implied meaning. The implied meaning is the function of the viewpoint that you have, and that is the one that leads to many interpretations. To understand this, let us consider one of these, the last word that I mentioned from the Krishna Yajurveda, Taittiriya Upanishad. Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. The literal meaning of the four words is truth, knowledge. Anantam means unending, and Brahma is what we are talking of. That's the actual meaning of the words. How you correlate these words makes all the difference. Also, the words may imply different meanings. For example, Satya is not just truth but reality also. Ananta could be infinite or the one that has no end. or that cannot be destroyed. Uh, do we use all the four words in order to grasp the meaning, or do you use three of them or two of them? And in what sequence? Which two or which three? All this is like what we have in maths, permutation and combination. And each one gives new meaning, new insight to what we can learn from them. Let's try and I'll remind the words Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. So we could say that Satya, Jnana, and Brahma are unending. That is, reality, knowledge, and Brahma are unending. Or we could say reality, knowledge, and Brahma are infinite. Instead of reality, we could talk of truth. Truth, knowledge, and Brahma have no ending. That is, they are permanent. You can't change them in any way. Or we could reverse the order and say unending knowledge is Brahma. Or we could combine three of them and say true knowledge is that Brahma is infinite. Let's look at another angle. Knowledge is Brahma, which is Jnana Brahma. Uh, but let's use Prajnana, that is permanently acquired knowledge by an individual. And then we get the Rigveda's Mahavakya, Prajnanam Brahma. It also depends upon the combination patterns that we use. True knowledge of infinite is Brahma. Infinite real knowledge is Brahma. Brahma is an unending reality. And if you use only two of them, Brahma is infinite. Or Brahma is the truth. Or Brahma is just knowledge. Let us look at Anantam Brahma, that is infinite Brahma. If it's infinite, you remove or add something to it and it still remains the same. If it remains the same, there is no change in its size, no change in its shape, no change in its quality, everything remains the same. So Brahma is Nirguna without attributes, Nirakar without shape, and Nirvikar, that is without any changes that could take place, deforming it in any way. So it is unchangeable. It is something that is far beyond the normal. And then if Atma is a part of it, it's like a small droplet in an ocean. If you look at this, that it cannot change by adding or removing something, we come to the famous mantra from the Bruhadaranya, which is also repeated in the Ishavasya Upanishad. Purnameda, Purnamedam, Purnat, Purnagachyate. We are all aware of this mantra. It's a part of the Shanti mantra. And when you take up all this and link with other Mahavakyas, it gives us so many more interpretations and so many more ideas that all seem to make sense. This is more like in our childhood, we used to have those animal blocks. You put them together and form an animal picture in front of you. And once one picture is formed, then you turn the whole group of one of them or reverse it or change it in terms of rows or columns, and you would immediately and very easily get the second picture. Once one was formed, The others behind were pretty simple to get. Uh, this is exactly what happens with Mahavakyas. If you grasp the concept of one of them, understanding the others becomes easier provided you know all the relevant terms. And just change the orientation and you get the next one. And look at it from a different angle and you get the third one. And reinterpret it and you get the next one. The Mahavakyas must be understood individually, then collectively to get a broader picture. Just knowing what the Mahavakyas is not enough. We need to understand each and every one of them completely. That is what we will do next time. Next time, onwards would be a better word. If you have liked all this information, please like and subscribe to this channel and pass on the information to your friends. Let them also gain some knowledge. Till we come back to Mahavakyas and many of the related concepts. Namaskar.